In this edition of Motorcar File, we close out the year with a car that started a new trend in the industry. When the CLS debuted, it brought with it an all-new segment in the four-door coupe. A class of car which really before the CLS didn't exist and subsequently forced other car manufacturers to follow. The CLS is now 9 years in production and through that time has benefited from a lot of necessary style refinements. Overall, it really breaks common theories of design, and we believe its style is a direct result of its pure German engineering. The AMG variant of the CLS has a wider, more poised stance with edge line details in the hood, and the side and the rear profile appears to be a little bit broader with aggressive shoulders over the rear fender flares. This 2014 example has the dual overhead cam M157 aluminum twin-turbo V8 with 550 horsepower and 531 foot-pounds of torque at a very low 1750 RPM. The S model package increases both those values and includes other visual and performance enhancements. In the US 4MATIC configuration, power is distributed 2/3 to the rear and 1/3 to the front. So we'll go through all of the CLS specific features in detail, but from time to time you'll hear us refer back to a recent review we did of the SLS, and that's because all of the instrument-based functions and infotainment functions are practically identical and we go through them in detail. In our opinion, really there's only few cars that can compete with the CLS63. We've narrowed it down to the M6 Grand Coupe and the Audi S7, but I guess you could also consider the RS7. For 2015 and beyond, the CLS gets a touched-up exterior and the new generation interior. So that's a nice feature, but be that as it may, let us go through the interior and take this car for a test drive. We want to take a moment to thank everyone at Global Motor Cars of Houston for allowing us to do these reviews. Their inventory, their service, their prices are really second to none, and we ask that if you're in the market for a vehicle, you contact them at globalmotorcars.com. Okay, so let's start the interior detail portion of the 2014 CLS63 AMG. We're going to try to go quickly into the car because it's a little bit windy outside today. But you do have your gorgeous V8 bi-turbo insignia on the side here. It is a keyless entry system, so you can just come up to the car and pull on the handle. The CLS is sort of a sporty sedan coupe, kind of like the Grand Series of the BMW. Honestly, I don't know who did it first, but this is a new trend of the sporty sedan, sort of a coupe look with four doors. So again, with that you have tapering lines similar to the profile of the car, tapering towards the back, and we'll talk about some of these functions here in the door panel. Gorgeous leather inside, soft touch leather, perfect stitching. This car doesn't have contrast stitching, so it's an all black interior. And it has this black ashwood inlay, which matches very well in this case. So we'll get inside here. You have a very nice AMG kick seal in metal. Very nice finish there, brushed and polished in the center where the AMG cap is. And you just put your foot on the brake with any other Mercedes keyless system. Put your foot on the brake and push start. Simple enough. So for all of the more recent AMG cars, your main key has the Affalterbach symbol here, the AMG Affalterbach symbol, and the spare key they give you is all black here, but this is a very traditional Mercedes key we've seen before. So I'm going to set the key there, and we'll start talking about some of the functions here in the door panel. One thing I like about the CLS door panel is that you see the portion that sits next to the key, to the lock, is flat up here. So you get a nice flat surface that continues from the dashboard. But cutting right off of that, you get a steep angle into the door panel curves themselves, which is a very nice feature. It's very angular, very sporty. There's little things like that that sort of set the CLS apart. So you have your regular door handle in a very nice satin finish, unlock and lock, traditional Mercedes seat adjustment right here. Below that you have your mirror adjustment control, your windows, of course, automatic up down, and that's for all the windows. And then you have your rear window lock here. Down in the side panel compartment for the door, you have your trunk release. So everything is really easily accessible, but this is not so quick to see. So you have to sort of learn that the trunk switch is here in the door panel. You do have a traditional foot actuated parking brake. It's not an electric parking brake in this 2014 model. Nice metal finish pedals. Your headlight controls, of course, satin finish with a gloss black rim, traditional to more recent Mercedes. You're leaving it in auto, of course, makes it function just fine, but you can manually turn it off. Your parking lamps full on. Of course, a lot of the recent Mercedes cars have, Mercedes-Benz vehicles have a satin finish everywhere, which I personally love. You can see it in the steering wheel, you can see it in some of the buttons, you can see it in a lot of the AC trim finishes, and there's one particular trim finish detail in the door finished in that satin look. So you get that gorgeous look everywhere. So a lot of the functions of the main infotainment system, the command system here, is very similar to the SLS. So I'll be referring back to the SLS a lot, just to keep this interior portion trim, so we don't have to go through everything all over again. So we'll be referring to the SLS review quite a bit. You do have your performance-oriented gauges here with a main computer in the center. That main computer, as we've shown before in previous reviews, you have your navigation for that main computer here on the left part of the steering wheel. You have a back button. You have your main menu here, so you can switch between your main menus available in the center computer. And one of our favorites is that AMG window, which gives you a performance look into the temperature, water temperature, oil temperature, and things like that. This car, I don't know if you see that eco symbol. By default, modern Mercedes start in the eco mode. You'd have to physically go turn that off to which is the start stop and gas saving feature, but every time you start the car, it starts in eco mode. You do have red sort of details in the actual needles themselves, so that gives it a sporty look. And you do have an AMG specific font in the numerical values shown on the dials. So all of that's a very nice feature, and at night it has a nice, very white LED light up look to it, which is pretty fantastic. So the newer AMG cars have that 7-speed Speedshift MCT, essentially a multi-clutch transmission, and we'll talk about that in the driving portion. But you can actuate the gears here with the down button and the up button, which is mounted to the steering wheel, so it moves around with this steering wheel. And something particularly enjoyable about this steering wheel is that the top is flat and the bottom is flat, so you get this very nice sporty feel to it. And there's optional steering wheels you can get that have that Dynamica material, which feels like a microfiber Alcantara. So in the case of this CLS, you do have this Alcantara-like material presented in the roof. And I think in the case of Mercedes, they call it Dynamica, but it's a very Alcantara-like microfiber material, which feels like suede. And it's a gorgeous finish. It follows all the way down the A pillar. It's in the B pillar, and it stretches back into the C pillar. So it's a gorgeous finish there, very luxurious. Moving up through that, over the dash, you do have your parking sensor gauge there, so you can, when you're moving up to something, That gives you your distance all the way up to red, little notches, amber LED notches on both sides, all the way up to red. Similarly, you have it in the back. So whenever you're reversing, you have your park distance control for the sensors. Again, that black ashwood follows all the way through the dash and sort of bows out here in the center with all the controls. So we'll come down there from the dash here into the infotainment area. So you get a nice analog IWC engineer model clock here in the center of the dash, which has similar font for the numbers that the dash carries, the dials carry, which is a nice feature. Below that, you have your manual direct buttons for your command system. So your radio, disc, navigation, telephone, mute, telephone controls down here. Your favorites and your dialing is over here. In-dash disc, volume control. So it's pretty easy there. You have your back track, forward track, and your memory card here. Below that, you have your heated seat for your driver, cool seat for the driver. You have your rear sunshade for the back window or privacy. Usually it's for temperature, but also works very well for privacy. Your eco button that I mentioned before, the car automatically will start on eco, and you can turn that feature off here. So if you don't want the engine to turn off in hotter climates. Your parking sensors, you can turn them off, and the similar comfort, convenience features of the seats for the passenger. Below that, you have all of your climate control functions. So you have your dial, very similar to the SLS. If you watch the SLS review, you'll know how to use all these buttons and all of this control very, very well. And we'll direct you back to that as necessary, so we can keep this review and the interior short. So the cup holder here, two cup holder, nicely finished with the gloss piano black look. So you have all your transmission, suspension, and driving mode selection here. We go through this, of course, in the SLS, but we'll just do a cursory review here, which is very similar. You have your park button here, your reverse, which is 2 notches up, your drive, which is 2 notches down, and you have a single notch for neutral. You do have your drive mode selector here, similar to the SLS. So you have your control efficiency, sport, sport plus, manual, and race start, or launch control, if you will. You have your traction control settings, your suspension, if you want to put it in sport or regular mode, it'll be like stiffening it up, if you will, for performance driving. You have your AMG button, which if you set up, you can just push and it'll put all those settings exactly where you want them. So if you need to navigate through the command system and not use these manual controls or direct buttons, you can do so via this knob, which goes up, down, left, right. It rotates and you can select. Of course, you have a dedicated back button and a clear button if you're inputting something for the navigation. Moving around this is exactly like this at the SLS. So pushing up will take you to the main menu bar up there, where you can get to different categories that you can here with direct buttons. And navigating it is pretty easy. So you can rotate to get to navigation. You can zoom in and out with the knob, literally exactly like the SLS. So you can go back up if you want to get out of navigation by pushing up to get to the main menu, and rotate to where you need to go. So navigation of this is pretty easy, and then the bottom will have submenus for whatever main category you're in, and you can navigate through all that right here easily with this knob. One particular feature which I absolutely love is this dynamic seat, which sort of holds you in position when you're driving, and we'll talk about how that feels. So when you're making a left turn, your right side bolster will squeeze in, holding you in and holding you straight and holding you comfortable. You do have a little extension at the bottom of your feet here. So if I push this button, this portion of the seat will lift up. It's like a little extension, nice feature. And you do have a pulsing massage seat option as well, and you can move that position here. So the little center console storage is open like this. You just lift this thing and it opens, split door design. You do have a 12-volt DC power supply, USB plug, and a traditional older iPhone connector and auxiliary port. Very nice features. One thing that's pretty cool, you have a pen holder here in case you wanted to put a pen. That's pretty cool. So moving over here at night, I should tell you that below this curvaceous black ashwood dash, there's an LED feature that wraps around, which is really, really nice at night. And you do have a good sized glove compartment here, again with a feature where you can put a pen in there and maybe some cards, business card, insurance card, which is nice. You have your side storage compartment for maybe some documents or things like that. Here, traditional to Mercedes, we've seen that before. And gorgeous AMG finish floor mats, fantastic, in white lettering. So basically from this point, we'll look at the top stack a little bit here. We have your sunroof control right here, so you can tilt or completely open. You have all your SOS and information. If you need any information, SOS button is here. The other thing, you can get navigation sent straight to the command system with one of these buttons, to embrace, F equipped and F subscribed. So you have these switches here laid behind all these for the lights, interior lighting control. You have your lighting when your door is open, if you want the lights to turn off or turn on, and that control is back here. Your Bluetooth microphone and interior temperature sensor is up there as well. So nice features there. So let's go into the passenger seat. Let's look in the fuel door. We'll look in the trunk. We'll look in the engine bay, and we'll get right to the driving, which I'm excited to do because this is one of the sportiest sedans I've ever driven, and I want to see really how it does on the road. So let's go ahead and do that now. Here we open the trunk here. Unlock the door to make sure the gas tank, the fuel door will open. So you have a generously sized trunk, very, very deep trunk. Storage options here with some netting and some hooks for storage latches. DC power supply, 12 volts. First aid kit, traditional to Mercedes. Let's see if we have a spare tire detail back here, and your battery. So for weight distribution, the battery's of course in the trunk. So very nice trunk detail. And then you do have an option to close the trunk automatically with that switch. Fuel door has a traditional cap. Let's see a quick view of the trunk, the back seat here. So of course this is a sports sedan that is designed to have a silhouette of a coupe, if you will. So of course back here the headroom is very low, the leg room is very short. So it does feel like a coupe when you're back here, but just you have a little bit more room. So you do have rear storage for the back passengers, finished in a gloss piano black. And you do have an ashtray, 12-volt power supply, and cup holder here. Again, you can close it with this gloss piano black cover. So you do get very tight space back here, but of course it'll function if you're just riding around town and you need to carry some people in the back, no problem. But of course long trips might be a burden. So let's go sit in the front seat. So the front seat is very roomy. You don't have the dynamic seat controls as the driver, like the driver does, but it's very roomy, very comfortable, and I can do long trips no problem in this position. You do have good view, good support. So the passenger seat is fantastic in the new CLS, and I'm sure they're going to continue to improve on that. But so far, I mean, it's amazing. For a sedan that's designed to look like a coupe, this functions very well. And the one-man, one-engine, 5.5 liter twin turbo V8. Absolutely love this engine. We'll see how that power and torque feels here in a second. So let's get to the driving of this car and see how it does. Alrighty, so here is the best portion of this review, I would say, considering the power of this car, is the driving portion. I would honestly consider this segment of the sports sedan coupe look. The direct competitor of this would probably be the M6 Grand Coupe. But it depends if your preference is BMW or Mercedes, I suppose, as to which one you would select. They both apply the same principle: V8 twin turbo, 500 plus horsepower, 500 plus foot-pounds of torque. Adversely to that, I would say the E63, for example, the big brother to this, if you will, or the full functioning proper four-door comparison to this, if you will, that compares more to the M5, the standard M5. So in the M6 CLS63 range, my personal choice would probably be the M6, but I'm a fan of BMW myself. My partner says that he would select this. But either way, both are very fun cars. One thing to note about this car is that the transmission, where you would have a traditional torque converter, you have this MCT multi-clutch technology, so you have no power loss, and you have the added function of the paddle shifters, and the shifting is quite seamless. So let's see how this power feels. We're going to, as I said, it starts in Eco by default. We're going to turn off Eco here. We're going to go to Sport Plus, and of course we get a nice throttle blip downshift, signifying that it's poised for some performance. And at this stop sign here, we're going to give it some gas and see how it does. This car is equipped with a blind spot monitoring system and other safety features, standard and optional to Mercedes. And of course, if anybody's familiar with purchasing a Mercedes, you know that ticking those options can quickly get pretty expensive. So let's see how this power feels, and we're mid and full. Oh my god. Wow, this thing is a torque monster. Holy cow. Oh my god, you would not imagine a sedan would move like that. Apparently this thing will do 0 to 60 in a short but brisk 3.6 seconds. So here we go again. Wow. Oh my god. You get nice exhaust transition sounds, like a little clack or a popping noise in between gears, which sounds fantastic. And subtle changes in the steering wheel activates those side bolsters, which feels very comfortable and very confident. Balance side to side with that performance suspension is fantastic. And of course, right now when I sway this car from side to side like that, both of my side bolsters kick in and hold me in place. So that is just absolutely awesome. Good feature by Mercedes. That's awesome. I mean, what a car. So that'll pretty much do it for the review of the 2014 Mercedes-Benz CLS63 AMG. We are very happy to have brought you another review, particularly an exciting sedan like this. You can find us, if you want to contact us, anywhere at or / motorcarfile across all of the social media networks. You can find us at motorcarfile.com. Please leave your comments and let us know what you want to see in the future.